Greetings, peace. Oh man. Give it honor to Source, the Creator, to the Divine, ancestors known and unknown. Y'all ready for this? Go and get your popcorn, go and get your water, go and get your drink, whatever it is you're gonna get. Cause this right here is gonna be a home run. It's gonna be very interesting. Again, you know, whether you want to call it entertainment purposes or whatever, it's just as authentic as I can be, because me just getting clarity on some things and, you know, presented it here just brings a lot of awareness to, again, speaking from my perspective, how I've been navigating this, what we call life, earthly experience, human experience, whatever. I really got some real deep clarity on something. Oh, I just realized I snapped that, but it's okay. It's okay. I know what they say. You know, you're gonna step on some toes with. I'm gonna step on some toes with this one. This is gonna be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. This is not in any way an attack. Again, this is my perspective. This is my opinion from my own experience, from my own journey, and so forth. And that being said, I'm gonna dive right into it. You know, give it up for yourself if you made it here to this video and so forth. I'm really feeling my shirt, y'all. I really loving the colors. The spring is here. Let me start off by saying this. I want to speak about my own experience when it comes to dealing with the so-called, you know, those that grew up in the what we call the South with an F. But this is really going to be speaking on my experiences from childhood woundings and how this has played out in up to this very moment, where I got major clarity on something in regards to like a past connection or connection to women. And again, when I'm speaking about like religious beliefs, or everyone's, you know, have a different belief system or are coming into and developing their own belief system and what they value and what they support. This is no way an attack on people who study religion of different nationalities and creeds and so forth. This is really going to be speaking on the archetype of Jesus, and the archetype of that is how I have connected it to the father wound of a woman, and where I'm gonna elaborate on it, because if from my own experience, I used to sit there, you know, and really question, and this is when I was young, just observing. I used to ask myself, like, how could my mother and or grandmother and or like women could have so much, could honor and praise so much of a man or a deity or something that they have never, like, sometimes, like, and this is again my interpretation, like physically seen or interacted with. And how could they have held this person, being, or whatever it is, to a more higher standard than their own father, than their own son and father? And so this came to me. I was like, I gotta share this, because one thing about me is, like, I love to speak the uncomfortable truths. And one thing about that being authentic, it can come with a polarity of things, where you may have people that support it, and you may have people that hate it or will have so much to say about it. But to each his own. Like, it doesn't bother me. It is what it is. Like, one thing about being honest with yourself is that you can sit with that, and you can honor that, instead of trying to be in a fake society or in a world who really don't know how to really be themselves without some type of external acceptance or validation. So that's how I connect how this Jesus archetype has been used to prey on the woundings of women. And again, I'm speaking from my experience, from what I've experienced with women that are melanated in the dark. For instance, it never really made sense to me for a woman that is dark to have a picture of a man or anybody that looks nothing like them. And I'm sure people can connect this to other cultures and creeds, but I ask myself, even if there is truth to this character of some form, why doesn't it really truly reflect what you look like? Because imagery is so important when you're talking about psychologically, experiencing something. And I'm just seeing how psychologically it all has been used in a way to where, when I'm speaking on the wounding of women, I'm speaking on the fact of like, what abandonment issues have you experienced from your own father? What emotional neglect or abandonment, what physical abandonment, abuse, and so forth that goes on and on? What have you experienced from a man that looks like this to what make you be in the mindset or to take on this narrative that you have to believe in such something that you cannot even physically see, but you say you have this connection? And there's so much of this emphasis or so much of this looking for this external, and this is not everyone, but from experience of seeing people like going to this building, going to this place, looking up to this person. And I can see even with this archetype, even how just the corruption, even around when you're talking about religion and how the organization, how it's organized and so forth, even the pastors or people who are put in this place, even in that aspect of how they're also in the egotistical way looking for this glorification, or in a way they reflect that fatherly wounding as well, that abandonment. Because it's like, if a woman is really not secure within herself and she doesn't really really have that connection spiritually to whatever source, creator, or most high she believes in, then you have this character or this archetype of a man that you're looking and going, you go to this certain person to look for or to receive all your answers, instead of intuitively, women naturally have this intuitive, naturally have your intuition, which is a more of a spiritual connection or a soul connection, intuitive connection. So I was sitting here trying to process the fact of like, how can my grandmother or anybody have this image of a person and not but treat, this is not everyone, but treat the men that look like you like shit or with disrespect. But then it's like, I'm just calling it for what it is. It's just like, from my experience, to see women who can glorify image or people, and or people too, because the psychological aspect of that is how they even hold another culture, creed, or people of different shade to a more higher standard than their own, and not see the mental illness in that. And it's like that whole archetype of that character or person has been used psychologically to prey on their own fatherly wounds. This, and like I said, normally in, around the world, this is how I feel like how the mental like fuckery that has been messing on so many people up. Because even they take that subconsciously programming and go out into the world and even treat people that don't look like them much better than their own, and don't see the psychological, dysfunctionality in that. And that's why I realized, like, somebody can go on this position or go on here in this career, and when they see someone that doesn't look like them, they have the utmost respect or the utmost like whatever it is, because psychologically, or what they don't know, or their own programming, is that they connect that somehow to that archetype of so-called Jesus, or it's like the colorism thing. And so I used to really sit back and observe and see, people glorify so much of this person, but yet have never had any type of, experience physically, like that being in the body, and how this story has been told for so long. And another part of that is like this archetype of having the patriarchal more higher, and glorifying the son and the father, and automatically discrediting the matriarchal aspect, the mother. And I used to ask myself, why, even if, because in different religions and cultures, some cultures have Mary as the emblem or the symbol. And then what's not being told, before there was a patriarchal aspect, or how it was corrupted, before that even patriarchal aspect was placed purposely to create dysfunctionality and imbalance, the matriarchal was easily tried to be erased. And this is why, I've talked about how the Divine Mother has taken her place back, because even as a man, I ask myself, okay, you keep giving me this, if I have to see how the father wound has affected our women, okay, so what do I look to? If I'm not looking to find looking towards, if I'm not focused on a fatherly wound, my motherly wound, where is this archetypal, where is this matriarchal aspect that I need, this feminine energy aspect, what I mean, like the both feminine and masculine, but where is this, this motherly figure that has been removed in a way? And as I started to research, I started to learn, I'm like, it hasn't. It has always been here. And that's how I see the corruption with the religion aspect, how it was, from my opinion, again, how it has controlled so much, or has displaced the mother, the matriarchal. And when you talk about mother, the Father, Son, and the Spirit, I'm like, well, from my interpretation, the Spirit, in another way, common sense got to be a mother, or got to be some type of matriarchal figure, because how can anything come into this world? Then I started to realize, I said, you know what? This had to be used to prey on the woundings of women. Because if they can't really solely be secure within themselves and reconnect to their innocence, the loop will continue for them to continue to look for this father complex. And a lot of what I have seen, especially in the melanated community, especially in the South, or even globally, how it's been used, is when you have a woman that's wounded, or have been wounded in a way where she has been wounded by men, and then here I give you this archetype of a father that will never fail you, you can pray and get all your answers to, and so forth and so forth. I'm like, okay, but what about, I'm asking my women this, but what about the physical protection that you need, in a way? What about the things that a man can only give you? And I'm just trying to get y'all to think outside of the box, or like really realize like how, when you look at religion and spirituality, of how I've seen so many women have used, seeing them use religions, or even Jesus, as a crutch to run away from themselves and run away from their childhood from their childhood, not only their childhood traumas, but their father wounds. And if you don't know about, learn it. Like, ask yourself, you have a father present, and then you talk about this father or this archetype of a man, but you're needing more therapeutic, face to face. You know that, oh, I'm gonna take it to God. I'm gonna go give it to this person. Okay, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about emotional well-being, when you're talking about your spiritual well-being and so forth, I'm gonna be real, like, doesn't that archetype of this man or this figure, this father, I'm like, hasn't it abandoned you in some type of way? Yeah, you can say it shows up to you in some type of other form, but in a physical complex. I'm talking about, where is this person showing up to you in the present? And you keep telling yourself, I really be coming here asking questions to realize, like, if it's not centered around father wounds, then what is it centered around? Because this is how I feel like the return of the Divine Mother and her taking her rightful place is to see the balance between the feminine and masculine energies and principles that's been restored. And even seeing how the ushering in from the Piscean age now to the matriarchal, to the Aquarian age. Tell them, Bird, this is the age of truth. This is the age of the golden age. So I'm sitting here like, I tell myself, if my mother, has been looking, when I look at her relationship, and this is me breaking it down, when I look at her relationship with her father, and then I see this external, let's say she didn't have that healthy relationship with her father. So I'm trying to see how that connects to the father that she's looking for, whether outside of herself, in the sky, somewhere else. I'm trying to like, and then what it does for a little boy, and now being a father, I can see how I'm reflecting, and like, when I really see a lot of women who haven't really faced their fatherly wounds, I really look back and be like, oh wow, it makes a lot of sense now, the clarity, it hits me. They abandoned due to the abandonment of them, like probably some abandonment issues with their father. I can see how that connects to them trying to find some type of external fulfillment in how religion, replaces that father complex. And can you really tell, I ask myself, okay, but has it really helped you really face your own internal battles? Has it really helped you mend that relationship? I'm not to say there aren't things that really help guide through that. But when I'm talking about the connection where, how has that helped you heal your inner wounds with a man? And so my connection with my own experience is that I would see my mom go to church, or I would see my grandma go to church and so forth. But then I would like, you got more of a healthy relationship with God or Jesus or somebody, but the relationship with your son and father don't reflect the same thing. It ain't adding up. It ain't adding up. And then that leaves, that's why we're getting to. And then that leaves the son of the boy even more. I'm just telling y'all how this has reflected in my life. If I'm seeing my mom or someone go to this church or go to this pastor or go to this person for this fulfillment, for this external validation and acceptance, and not ever feeling fulfilled within herself and accepting her own role and how it is her life came to be, that in a way, I can see how that has created a block or wedge between her more spiritual or reconnecting, her son or her father being physically there really reflects her own relationship on how, whether her wounds are really healed, if that makes sense. Like her internal wounds. Basically like saying like your relationship with your father, however that is, you as a woman, before you're given religion. And this is why I tell people, before we arrived here, you got to realize a lot of this shit was forced on us, projected on us. We didn't come in knowing this. This is something generationally or traditionally that's been passed down. Because not everyone is religious. Not everyone is spiritual and so forth. No judgment. But I'm sitting here breaking this down to where it's like, it can make a child, a son, or someone even feel more abandoned, or neglected, because you're neglecting your relationship with that child. And that's more of a spiritual connection, or internal connection, to look for outside of yourself in other relationship with men, with your pastor, with your boss, with this so-called archetype of Jesus, for this fulfillment, rather than going inside and facing it with yourself. And so that son is looking for this matriarchal figure, for this nurturement and so forth, and yada, yada, yada. And where do we go to look for that? Because this is like a topic that I realized I had to talk about this, because I know there are other men like that. Like, they hold this archetype of a man. And it's funny how this world has based, again, it ain't even just religion. You're talking about how society and other men have pumped women with what it is to even be a man. Everything that's far from the authenticity of who we are. And that's because of disposition. And if she's looking for this fulfillment and looking for this father, then she's neglecting the parts of herself that she needs to heal, both matriarchal and patriarchally. So I can see how the disconnect from really the father, like disconnecting from the wounds within, whether that be the father, that fatherly wound also highlights the mother wound. Because depending on if that woman had a relationship or a healthy connection with her father, that typically reflects back to whatever that relationship that father had with the mother. And see, a lot of this connects to the mother having a healthy relationship with her father. And if that father had a healthy relationship with his mother. This is what generational curse breaking is. This is what, when I talk about ancestral and spiritual things, I do realize, I can say for a fact that how religion and how things were used, I can connect that to the father wound, or this false illusion, or this archetype of how it ushered in keeping women more away from really facing themselves in their own internal battle, or facing their fatherly wounds. Because if they put certain things away and really sit with themselves and realize, like, wow, because I know some people right now, even their fathers, or depending on what they're more what they're connected to, they're so caught up in, even in the programming of being so religious. And this is women too, but some of these women's fathers, they call them the preacher's daughter, they so consumed by these organizations and so forth that you can't tell me. And I know from a fact, some of them, people I met, that they got father wounds behind that. Because sometimes a father is so consumed by their ego and wanting to be this big man and all like this, is seen as such, whether it be in the community, be so of the world, to where they forget about really what it really is they rather protect their image rather than protect their daughters. And what I mean by not just a physical protection, I mean like focusing on their emotional well-being and their spiritual well-being. Because see, in a spiritual sense, the father in a way has a duty and a responsibility, because again, I'm gonna break this down. When you look at, oh, I shaded. I'm glad this came up. If you look at the religious aspect and how the archetype of Jesus or certain things have been used, I can see the self-hatred in how the image of, if this person is lighter skinned, then I can see how that image has been used for women that are darker, because it doesn't reflect what you know in your eyes, what you want that man to look like. So let's say if you did have a you know, and this is because there's other names people use, but I'm just sitting here saying like how much, again, how a lot of these organizations, a lot of these corrupted, you know, things have been used to keep people away from themselves. That's the main purpose that I'm talking about here. Because again, I'm talking about, but why, I ask myself, why you got so many churches? Why you got so many denominations? You even got churches in places where are predominantly, you know, lighter skin, darker skin. And I'm sitting here like, but you, even in the darkest of churches, you have this image of somebody that don't even look like you. Now help me to make sense of that, because again, this father wound is in all cultures. Yes, some of you that, you know, you've been given this is the corruption. This is why it's all being exposed. I just ask myself, I tell people like, you don't think for yourself. You allow this archetype of somebody else to really give you the answers. But what about your intuition? Your intuition ain't never lied to you. How do we put these characters and people in places and hold them to a higher standard than ourselves? I just think that's bullshit. I just call it out for what it is. My thing is, again, I can see how it has kept a lot of our women who naturally, when you, before religion or before a lot of things came about, when you look at things ancestrally, they were naturally spiritual. They naturally either lived off the land, they naturally were intuitive, they did spiritual things, they did ritualistic things. That's just what it is. But I'm just saying, it's not everyone. I'm just saying I can connect to see how, when I go see someone fall on their knees and cry out for begging, to me it seems crying out for some type of approval or answers, and I'm asking myself like, you know, I used to really sit back as a child like, well, what are you doing that I'm not doing, you know? And again, I just can really see a lot of the connect the dots like a web, or connect like the webbing of everything, like connected to where it's like I can just see beyond the veil to where, yeah, I can see the religious aspect. Like, to each his own when people use it. But I'm sitting here like, okay, hold on. From my experience, if I know that when you're talking about childhood trauma, when you're talking about how we develop our emotions, how the mother is the first teacher, the mother, you know, but if there's this displacement or this dissociation with our women not really being in tune or connecting to that motherly energy or that feminine energy, I can see how, again, how certain aspects of using the man, you know, even the gender roles and even the patriarchal, to create this illusion of them even being higher and the woman being lower or less valuable. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, how what? And again, this has been the program. When you really look, whether it's religion or not, I'm talking about the father wounds and the mother wounds of our women, who really never sat down with a healthy man, who never really sat down with a man who's emotionally in tune. So to give them this archetype of what a man is perfect, and he sacrificed so much for you, he's so. But the ones that really are in tune right now could look and say like, they really need someone there who can listen. You don't think that's fooling yourself to think that somebody gonna come to you and approach you and be like, oh yeah, no, there are women who need this, that face to face, that interaction, that water. You've been let me tell you something. You've been watering this illusion. We've been told to water this illusion of this archetype of this person or whatever it is, but you haven't been watered back. Cause y'all deserve to be watered watered in ways where, you know, you also deserve the nurturing, the appreciation, you deserve to be watered back. And religion hasn't did that for you. I'ma just be real. Cause I can sit there and see how some of these people that are elder have sat back for so long and literally transitioned or left this world with that same mindset, or even believing that somebody, and this is real, that somebody gonna come and crack the sky, bro. Literally somebody gonna come. And then even if they come, someone really believe that they don't even, the skin, like to see the colorism and the psychological warfare in that, to make it seem, I can see how it makes it seem like this person of color, or this person that looks like this image we had given you, makes it seem like this person or is more superior, and you don't even have more respect for your own men that look like you, that natural, so forth. But you know that still has been, because I did grow up like in one of my homes. My mom did have, I'm trying to tell you, listen to how psychological fucked up this is. You have, and this, I'm telling you, it's not only the father wound, but it's how it also connects to being like profiting off of your pain. How I can really see how the church and all these places have been profiting off the pain of our mothers and women. Because if you don't really facing your inner wounds and the father wounds and so forth, then you're still trying to look for this fulfillment in whatever, it don't even gotta be religion. Even how the monetary system, money and so forth, things that have been put into your eyes and on your path to really keep you from yourself, to really keep you from healing and facing yourself. Because otherwise you wouldn't be degrading or dehumanizing not only yourself, but destroying everything around you. And that's just real. Like how this stuff has really been put right there. And it's naturally how you've been given the, like, before you even can sit down with a man that look like you, before you even can sit down with your father, your real father, that can really talk about, you know, tell you the things that are really internally bothering you, the pain and so forth. And I know everybody don't have this opportunity to do that, but what I'm saying, you still have the opportunity to heal. Even if you have a son, you still have the opportunity to internally mend that and face it within yourself. I'm trying to tell you how the father wound connects to the mother wound, and even the father wound reflects back to your own internal wound. How ancestrally and spiritually, how your son is a manifestation of you, you know, a masculine aspect of you. Of all the things that you haven't faced within yourself as a woman. I can honestly say that when I look at my princess. As much as I wanted, everything that bothered me, everything that I wanted to deny about myself, I realized that what I saw with my mother and what I saw with my princess, it highlighted everything. And I'm talking, this is more in depth of speaking about the mother wound. And this is how I'm connected to how even the father wound and how the religious aspect in my life, how it all, like I'm connecting the dots and reflecting. So again, the mother wound with my princess, the internal thing I realized, my internal battle was me realizing that I had to be the one to change that. I'm not, why would I look to some type of external source? I'm gonna be real, let's be honest, I can't go to I'm not gonna lie to myself and be like, I can go to so-called Jesus, Buddha, anybody else or whatever. Cause this is the thing that blows my mind. There's just when we look at the gender so-called, again, this is the program, there's only masculine, well, I ain't gonna say masculine figure because there's only men roles. Like when you look at how the archetypes are in a way, what's been given to us, the programming, there's only roles of certain, if you want to call them deities or certain things. I'm like, but what about, where's the matriarchal role? We ain't asked ourselves that. Because see, that's the thing where as sons and fathers, where yes, women naturally, y'all got this, you know, even men, but naturally women naturally can go to Jesus or go to the Father. But you don't even see how the displacement of the woman to where do we go to? If we can't come to y'all about what we really internally go through and have went through, you know, you being a reflection of all those things that internally that reflects the feminine, you know, well, the nurturance, the nutrients and all those things that really reflect who we are emotionally. And if you're not available because you're more consumed by religion or you're more consumed by a man that ain't even physically in your life, due to and connecting that to the father wounds, then where do I go with my mother wounds? I'm just trusting y'all catch my drift with this. It's like, where do we go as men and little boys? Because while y'all praying, and especially if they're not in their healthy version, if you're not healthy or in a holistic aspect, balance between feminine and masculine, then I ask myself, where do we go to? Where do we go to as little boys and young men? If y'all more consumed, because y'all been taking everything that we go through and, oh, I'm going to take it to Jesus. Or I'm going to take it to this person. But some things, I be real, everything, you can't go to something that you never witnessed and seen with your natural eye. You going to take everything there? That's all I'm saying. You taking all your burdens, you laying all your burdens down in front of somebody instead of really, like I'm trying to get this shit to make sense. You want to lay all your burdens down, but still never come and talk about what you really need to talk about. This is, I'm telling you about the father wound. I've seen so many women run from themselves and how could religion, how money, how drugs, all things, there could be anything. How they're running from themselves to really avoid sitting down with the people, you know, to clear that karma, to clear that internal war that's going on within them. Like, come on, help, like, for real. Let's talk about it. Why y'all always, I want to ask my women, why y'all always running to somebody rather than finding your own solutions? Because y'all obviously think that Jesus, the Father, and so forth got all the solutions. But here I am trying to make sense, like, how has the mother, the matriarchal figure, while every person here has to come through a woman, how has that been so removed from America? So removed from, you know, things globally. And if you do your research, oh, it's everywhere. When you're talking about the dark Madonna, some may call it the black Madonna, some may call it, you know, in other different cultures, Brazil, all over the world, you know, the copper lady. I'm talking about in different countries that people are not even aware of, because they knew that the matriarchal, the dark woman, they knew that the matriarchal was the beginning of everything. So I myself, like, I'm connecting to the fact of, like, okay, if I know within myself as a man that the mother is the first teacher, and then if I go back to my mother wounds, I realize, like, wow, all the things that I learned, all the things that I received, and what I was taught, literally, I naturally, you know, connect that to mama. Let's be real. because there was something that was magical. There was something that mama always had. Mama always had that, mama always had that love, that something magical and so forth. But what I realized about myself is that, and this is not for everybody, I realized that what I experienced or what I was given, during my innocent days and so forth, like my younger days and so forth, I realized that I just experienced a mother that had a lot of pain, had a lot of wounds, had a lot of things that she did not face. And when I really reflect on it now, I look at her relationship with her father. I look at the relationship with the men that she had. Those are things that cannot be ignored. And the thing I'm highlighting is how can you ask yourself, when I'm talking about your father wounds, I'm talking about the wounding, your relationship with not only yourself, but the father energy within you, the matriarchal energy within you. What are you running from? And then you have sons. Let's say you have a son, well, no matter their age, there is a connection there to where your relationship with yourself, still you hold this motherly energy. You hold this matriarchal energy. Everyone that came before you, we hold both matriarchal and patriarchal energy, feminine and masculine principles, energies, both dark and light. And not everyone did everything perfect. That's what I'm getting at. So ask yourself, how did you even come into the religion? Okay, have you asked yourself, how has it been used? And I'm telling you from experience of people who, again, have used it in a way to mislead, have used it even, spiritually abused it. And even in that, I can see the spiritual neglect, the emotional neglect, the physical neglect and abandonment of self and their relationship physically with kids and their family, because they want to run. It's like this savior complex. Literally, a savior. Saving you from what? Like I said, this is a subject to where, again, it is what it is. All I'm saying, I can see how the connection to a lot of what I've seen in my experience from women in my past, from all cultures and creeds, have used, no matter if it's this archetype, just the archetype of how a man has been upheld in a higher standard than even a woman. Like, and ask yourself, really, sit there and see how you can connect that to the woundings of your father or your relationship or your father. And now I had to ask myself that. I really had to ask myself that, even when it came to, like, how much the abandonment really hit me when I realized, like, wow, these women were so more consumed about looking for a man or this acceptance or this archetype of a man, to where, whether it be religion, money, and so forth, when you look at it, y'all want to cut grass now when I'm doing this? Like, looking forward, basically, in some type of physical, approval. I'm talking about, you can look at money the same way. Because look how this archetype of a man and your own belief system behind what a man should be. And really ask yourself, how does that really reflect your own internal value, your own core values? And when you look at the world and the state of the world, like, when you talk about core values, and when I see how the world has been, and women and so forth, women and men, and the oneness of all of it, everybody has been a part of this, well, the old world, like a part of this fake reality or this fake experience, whether it be religion, whether it be approval, whether it be acceptance, all of that. And it all was fueled off profiting off of our pain. And religion was a part of it. your judicial systems, everything, all these corporations, I'm talking about profiting off of the pain, profiting off of your wounds. If you want to call it the old matrix, and so profiting off of your wounds is what I'm speaking about. That's how I connect the father wound and the mother wound. They were profiting off of, the powers that were profiting off of our wounds, off of our pain. When you look at social media, they know that people are battling with abandonment issues, emotional neglect, and so forth. So when you go look right at how social media, when you're looking for likes, that I guarantee you that connects to some type of abandonment issues and so forth. Something. Everyone trying to live rich, everyone trying to live outside of their means, or no one wants to be secure in where they are and try to keep up with the Joneses. Not say everybody, but that connects to something, I guarantee you, in childhood, or some type of abandonment. My elder once told me, it's like the things we did not receive, and depending on if it's healthy or unhealthy, whatever behavior patterns, this is a pattern, this is programming, behavior, things that we develop. Ask yourself, it's like, when you're talking about profiting off your pain, why is, when you look at certain TV shows and so forth, it's all about violence. It's all about competition. Versus man versus woman. Podcasters, man versus woman. Kids, exploiting the kids, exposing the kids to, over-sexualizing them and so forth. It shows, and the corruption around. Even when I see all these things that are still, they're fading away because they know their time is up. I'm looking at it all. I'm talking about I don't care if you want to talk about NBA, NFL, all these things profiting off of the pain and the wounding of kids. The little inner child that's within them. I'm talking about the ones that have been through so much trauma and so forth, and they take that anger, and they take all of that frustration, they take all that repressed emotion, and go out there, right there on the field, right there on the basketball court. And again, there's a mask behind it all. Why do you have not only so many churches, why do you have so many leagues? Why do you have so many of, all these different products, all these different things? To keep people distracted, to keep people away from themselves, to really rely on the fact of, like, everything has always been within you. It's like a competition. Look, it's just what it is. You talk the food industry, everything, all of it is being exposed because, again, when you talking about the mother and father wounds, we all have it either experienced, or some of us who doesn't, to each his own. But when you get down to the core of all of this shit, when you talking about childhood woundings, when you talking about profiting off of our pain, this is why sometimes people don't even realize the programming around, and I can tell you, like, from my own experience, being so obsessed at a time in my life with porn, violence, and even like removing myself from the environments, pulling up stuff on social media. This is a corruption around the media and all that stuff that shows up on your timeline. It's a lot of shit, bro. Things that show up in certain places. What type of country don't tell you that they poison you, but they put the stuff in the food? Like, a lot of this is being exposed because it's bringing about a new world, a new order of things, new beginnings, and there's no stopping it. It's just, I sit here reflecting, I'm like, man, wow, kudos, bravo to the powers that used to be, because I was like, wow, really profiting off of our pain. When you're talking about envy, jealous, and so forth, things that pop up on your feed, things that, when you look at the celebrity culture, when you look at all these things that are centered around so much of greed, why do we need to know that this person is worth $1 billion? Why do we need to know that, why does it make sense that a person makes millions and millions when it comes to church? Like, you tell me that's not profiting off of something? You tell me that isn't a form of not just physical labor or some type of mental enslavement, programming? You telling me that all those women can sit in that crowd or whatever and look to this one man for an answer? I'm not saying this is always the case, but to go and crowd people up in one place, your coliseums, all these things for entertainment, for some type of, you know, like the Gladiator, some type of like dopamine in a way. And you telling me that's not like middle class, lower class? Like, who? We don't ask ourselves who created this. Where does it come from? And that's why you see the root of it being brought to the surface. You tell me that when you look at colorism, when you portray an image of people that look like me, people that are anywhere all around the world, and I remember the commercials used to come on with the kids that this is how they look in Africa, this is how they look here, and you telling me that that's not profiting? All that money, all that stuff went to where? You telling me it went to them? We cannot be, I mean, common sense it definitely ain't common. You telling me that that's where it went? And not to mention, like, people, like, when you talk about mental illness, the tarot community, the spiritual community, all these things, the corruption around it ain't just religion. It's all those things centered around how people want to profit off the pain of people. Oh, I got all the answers, I give you a reading. Like, I don't even see that right there in a way is, there's the polarity to a lot of it. It ain't even just the religion, it's also been in the spiritual community too. How people have tried to profit off, you know, people that are proclaiming to be spiritual high priests and all this other stuff. There's a lot that's being exposed because it has to be. So, and that's the thing you can't fake, is authenticity. And energy don't lie. That's why a lot of things are coming out about certain characters and certain people right now, because energy, when we talking about to the depths of things, your emotions, you know, your physical, spiritual well-being, when we talking about how energy doesn't lie, your intuition, all these things internal, it's just what it is. And so when I'm connecting this motherly wound, I'm trying to ask myself, well, how and why has this the mother, the matriarchal, has been removed or try to be removed so much? We don't ask ourselves this. And this is what has kept so much of women, you know, at that moment so disconnected from their own power, from their own internal power, from their own truth of who they are, where they come from, what they're connected to, what lands, ancestrally, so forth. If I just give you this one thing, if I give you this one book, and all I told you got to read this one book your whole life, it ain't even just a book, and you're in there reading it and you're not being able to put yourself there, but you're able to, it's all these characters are just male characters or just this, then you don't even see the programming and how you will uphold and how this has been trying to uphold this standard of men even being greater than women. And I told myself this, I'm like, bro, I've seen pregnancy and I've seen women, I had the experience to see a woman have a child. Bruh, let me tell you something. For all you men out there, it's just some things and that's the ego. It's some things you can't even compete with, bro. your money, your anything, none of that. I don't care what you have. See, that's the illusion of power that has been given. And this is why the matriarch or the divine mother is taking her stance and already hear the energy. She's just using some of us to, restore that. There's no way I would ever put myself in a place of comparing, being in competition, or ever feeling like I gotta be against a woman. Because even in my wounded state, even in when I didn't realize that how much the ripple effect that I had, and that's because of, me acknowledging what I went through with women, the wounded and so forth, and not seeing the importance of how my role will lead me to where I'm at today. But that's the beauty of it. It's like, again, you call yourself, and it's not just a man, because it's not about separation, but you call yourself a man of integrity or truth or honesty and so forth, when you can't even acknowledge the fucking woman in all of what you do, everything. You can't acknowledge the and this is the thing that, again, when I look at the patriarchal aspect, it's like, again, this is the physical. When you talk about the masculine principle, it's like the world has been so solely focused on forgetting about the feminine. And this is not gender. This is not, this is more so the dark. Everybody's forgetting about the dark aspect of things. The battery post, the negative and the positive. And when you put two negatives together, it's a positive. So with that, I'm like, how can you forget about the cycles? How can we forget about, again, one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of creation? How has that been displaced for so long? But I do get it now. It's all divinely orchestrated. If I reflect and realize that, which I've spoken about, is that I can see, I ask myself, like, this is why you're going to see some of these so-called leaders, so-called people who think that they cannot honor the mother. Because you got to realize, honor their mother and their father, and our days will be, whatever that verse is. How is it that you talking about a society, humanity, have been just solely focused on honoring the father, honoring the man so much that you have tried to displace the mother? And any man that knows, or any man that's in tune with himself, knows that when it comes to mama, a lot of us don't play about mama, because even though mama had her ways and big mama had her, she did what she had to do, there was nobody that can ever compete or ever measure up to the love, to the protection, and so forth. And see, this is why I feel like what a lot of has been used, that a lot of our women has been displaced from, is that they've been so more concerned on the physical that they've been so disconnected from their spiritual aspect. And that's that negative, which has been portrayed as negative in a way like it meaning bad or evil. And then in actuality, again, a battery post, negative and positive. You gotta have both for balance. So that's what's being restored to my women. All of you. You're facing yourself, and you facing your fatherly wounds, and that leading you back to your motherly wounds. You facing those things with your son, with your father in the present day, with your grandfather and so forth. Whether I'm talking about molestation, emotional abuse, abandonment, physical abuse, no matter who it is, it still reflects back something that whatever is hidden within you is for you to face, to bring forth healing to not only you in the matriarchal, because you represent and reflect the matriarchal, but bring healing to your sons, to that will someday be a father, that will someday be, grandfathers and so forth. That's how all of this connects. And some things have to be removed. This is why you're being called to return to your roots. And again, where is the root? If I would give you this analogy, and I'm gonna go. If you look at a tree, look at the tree, the masculine aspect as the positive, and then the roots being the negative. It'll make sense then. Because your roots in the spiritual aspect of who you are is the matriarchal. What grandma, what you experience with your mama and your grandma, you know, the painful things, the things that you felt she kept away. There is where your gifts are. There is where your spiritual gifts are. This is where you realize how important you reestablish the gifts that have been following you. And again, I always tell people this: yeah, you can feel like the curse, but at the same moment, you are the gift. See, those things, those generational curses could have followed you, but once you go inside and realize who you are and what you're standing for and how you take back your power from what you have experienced from both matriarchal and patriarchal, then you take back the power within your lineage and in your generation. Then you're able to stand for something and not fall for the tricks of the old world, or no longer, you know, have to carry mama, grandma, and everybody else's burden, their luggage. You can move forward now and realize, like, okay, mama, I don't want to be a part of religion, but I can see how it has benefited. I can see whether, you know, the good intentions or the bad intentions, you know, whatever it is, I can see the ill intentions behind why this had to happen to me. And I'm able to acknowledge it, accept it, grieve over it, and then move forward in my truth, the truth that reconnects you. Because this is where a lot of your gifts are heightened. You mothers. And when you bring healing to you, you bring healing to your daughters. Then when they come after you, this is why the mother and father aspect, the energies of feminine and masculine, which we all have, is so that it restores us, the wholeness within us all, the balance. So you can bring balance back to your lineage with the men, with your sons. And that's, you know, it's a responsibility. Because that can comes with being authentic and standing up to those people. You taking back your power, realizing like, hey, you can talk all that shit you want, you can say whatever it is you want, but ain't nobody gonna touch me, ain't nothing gonna happen to me. Because when you know that you have been selected and appointed, anointed, whatever you want to call it, to whom is given, much is required, as they say. So for those of you that do see this message, it's you. And you know it's you to the depths. The thing that you fear the most is really facing yourself. And when you learn to face yourself, you won't have an issue or a problem. Because in facing yourself, you're finding the solutions for you. And when you find the solutions for you, you find the solutions for your lineage. And so that problem that you've been watering so much, you will realize you can't have watered a problem to where it has grown this big. You can have watered the problem of and created a whole garden. But the solution is when you choose to go uproot that shit. When you choose to get to the root of it and pull it up by its root and remove it. And that can symbolize people, that can symbolize the programming, that can symbolize things you need to unlearn. And you know, that's a process of transition. That's a transitional process. Sometimes that uproot can be removing yourself from the environment, sometimes relationships, sometimes careers, so forth, to restore peace in your lineage, to restore grace, to grant yourself grace, to restore self-compassion, to restore self-love, to restore self-awareness, to restore prosperity, to restore balance. And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, this was beautiful. And I'm getting this sun too. This is what I'm here to do. See, once you get to that place, you'll realize like, shit, it ain't that you got nothing to lose. When you get to that place where I thought like I ain't got nothing to lose, I was like, nah, I have everything to gain now. That's my message to y'all. You got everything to gain now. See, once you face those things and you realize you're the solution. You're the solution to your lineage. You're the solution to everything that's going on. And that's just what it is. Peace and bliss. Shalom.